Well everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S10 and see if this particular phone is still worth buying in the later part of 2024. We're basically coming up to the last month of this particular year, and I will tell you there are probably some devices I would recommend buying and not recommend buying, but at the core, if a phone is not supported with software anymore, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to go ahead and buy it. Now, with the Samsung Galaxy S10, this is one of those devices that I basically look at, and I do think it's a phone that is so perplexing. The build quality of this phone is still beautiful. I mean, you're getting a 6.1-inch dynamic AMOLED display on the front of this thing, and it is a really good looking display. It's a dynamic AMOLED display 1440p. I think it was one of the last 1440p panels they put on their base lineup. I think the S20 they did it, but since the S20, they've all been 1080p for their cheaper base models. Now I think this phone looks beautiful on the front, but you're also getting a USB Type-C port, headphone jack, and a microSD card slot inside of this phone. That is some crazy stuff to have inside of a device like this. And like I mentioned, it is really, really cool. Now I would probably say if you want to go and get a newer phone, of course you're getting a way better phone all throughout, but you are giving up on a microSD card slot and you're definitely giving up on a headphone jack on the majority of phones nowadays. So that is, again, one of those minor things to kind of keep in mind from that standpoint. But I love the Galaxy S10, and this is by far one of my most favorite phones that have came out on the Android side in a long time. Standard glass back on the back side, which still looks great. Not really that much to complain about there from this side either. You're getting a triple camera setup on the back side, wireless charging, reverse wireless charging. Very good type of phone all throughout. And I do think this is a beautiful, beautiful device when it comes down to it. When things start changing is when it comes down to the software. So this phone was upgradable to Android 12, right? But it's not really getting any more software updates anymore. And this is kind of the problem that you're going to be experiencing with this type of device, because when you're getting a phone and it's already outdated with software, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to go ahead and buy this type of phone, right? It's already outdated. You probably want to get a phone that has a future ahead of it that's going to be giving you, more features all throughout. And with this type of phone, you're really not going to be getting that. And that is essentially one of the types of issues that you're going to be experiencing with this type of phone. So I would probably say from that standpoint, it is kind of one of the biggest downsides of buying this phone is that it's already done getting software updates. And it makes me sad because I want to be able to buy a phone that's going to be here for a couple more years. And this phone isn't really going to be, it's not going to be giving you that. So kind of keep that in mind when it kind of comes down to it as well. Finally, the performance of this phone, it's starting to kind of show its age a little bit, but I want to kind of preface that. This phone has the Snapdragon 855 chipset with 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM. The model I bought actually had 6, and I always felt like this was a pretty decent performing device. It wasn't terrible, and once again, I think Samsung did a decent job with this phone when it first came out, and it's like a decent device for the most part. Now, like I mentioned before, it's not perfect or anything, but if I do think if you're going to use a phone for basic stuff like checking notification or calling people, things like that, like basic games here and there, a little bit of elevated performance, but if you're not really doing anything super insane, you're probably going to be okay. But there's a few things missing here. One, a lot of phones have 8 to 12 gigs of RAM, so that's kind of the situation. The newer chipsets are much, much faster and much better. But on top of those things, one of the bigger downsides is the lack of a 120Hz display. So you're definitely going to feel like this phone is missing some things from that side. So overall, what I definitely will tell you is that I like the Samsung Galaxy S10, right? I like it now, but I loved it when it first came out. When it first came out, it was one of my most favorite phones of all time. This is not really a phone I'd recommend anyone to buy, but during those moments, I really, really appreciated it. And those are kind of the phones I'd recommend kind of buying, are phones that are still supported with software rather than this device. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.